Hello, my name is Taylor Willingham, and I'm going to help you go through here and fill out your beneficiary designation form for your accounts on non-qualified accounts. So let's jump into it. All right, first off, let's get into here. Notice this is non-qualified accounts, meaning not IRAs and 401ks. Non-qualified accounts mean those are not the tax-deferred accounts. So you're just checking savings and regular investment accounts. Before you get started, I want you to make sure that you have your bank account. Actually, I updated this. Should just say bank account information, not Chase bank account information. Your personal information. Now, personal information that you're going to need if you are setting this up for a trust, because most likely if you're watching this, it's because I told you that you need to set it up for your trust. So the beneficiary's information, the full name is going to be the trust name. The address is your address that you live at. Your social security number is going to be the tax ID number, and the date of birth is the date you created the trust. Okay. Your identification documents, you might need to identify yourself when you go in and have it signed. Now, when I go through these, you'll notice there's every bank on here, the forms and different ways that each bank that I put in here, how they do it. These are not all the financial institutions that are out there. I've just picked the major ones that most of my clients deal with, but they're all pretty much the same on how it works. So I'm going to use the example of Chase Bank here at the very beginning, their form. All the other forms are very similar. I'm going to point out little differences that you might need to know for other ones. But right here, let's go through Chase Bank, their form. Actually, I think that's Wells Fargo's one. Right? Let's pull up Chase Bank's right now. Okay. All right. If you are going to notice here at the very top, they're going to want your account, your name, okay, and the account number. Every form's the same. They need to know what account. So you have to do this for every account that you have. If you have multiple accounts at the bank, you might want to fill out all the other information. Don't fill out the account number, copy it, and then you can add in the account number later. First off, let me understand a few situations. I'm going to start off explaining as if you were setting this up if you created a trust. Okay. First off, you have to understand there are multiple different types of accounts. The two main ones are what I'm going to talk about, and that is an individual account or a joint account with rights of survivorship. Individual account means only your name's at the top of it. A joint account means both you and another person are on there, usually your spouse. And joint accounts with rights of survivorship mean both of you have to pass away before the money is going to pay out. So when we're setting this up, I need you to identify one or the other. Is this an individual account or is this a joint account? If it's an individual account, you'll list your name. And if you're setting this up for the trust, the primary beneficiary is going to be the trust. You'll put in the trust name. You'll put your social security number, the birth date, 100%, birth date's the date it was created, and the address. Okay. And you will add this beneficiary, and it will add that beneficiary below down here. Okay. Now, if it's a joint account with rights of survivorship and you have a trust, you're going to do the same thing. Okay. You're going to fill out and you're going to put the trust as the primary beneficiary. You want everything to go to the trust. All right. So trust accounts, it's easy. You just put the trust information in here. Where it says per stirpes here, do not worry about that when you have a trust. Okay. You don't need to select that. Even if you did select it, it would not matter. Okay. Individual accounts could be a little bit different. Individual accounts, some people want their individual accounts to go directly to their spouse and then to their trust, or vice versa in different ways. Okay, so most people though, it's easy when you've set everything up, you set everything up as if the primary beneficiary was supposed to be the trust, which is your spouse first and then all your kids. If that's how your trust is set up, then you'll leave the trust as the beneficiary. You just need to understand that when you're setting this up, there's a lot of different ways that it could be. It could depend heavily upon how your attorney instructed you how to set it up. But for almost everybody that I deal with, the trust is the primary beneficiary, and that's all you have to worry about. Some people go, well, I'd rather go to my spouse first and then go to my trust. So you do primary, and then down here, you add the contingent beneficiary. Okay. And you put the trust as the contingent beneficiary. So if you've set up a trust, it's wonderful because the trust will handle all the different scenarios that you would in setting up your beneficiaries. Now, let's say you didn't set up a trust. You're in here trying to figure out how to set up your beneficiaries. Well, this is going to depend on how you want your property to be distributed from this account when you pass away. Some things I do not want you to do. Do not go, primary beneficiary, I'm going to put my executor, and my executor then can leave the property how my will says. That's not how it works. If you leave the executor as the primary beneficiary, the executor will be the beneficiary and it will be that executor's money. Do not do that. Set up your beneficiaries how you want your property to be distributed. So let's say you're wanting everything to go to your children when you pass away and you have 3 kids. You will set up your primary beneficiary, okay, as your child. You will select per stirpes if you want their share. So let's say you had 3 kids and the oldest was named Dallin. And when Dallin passes away, you want the 33.33% to go to his children upon his passing. Then you would select per stirpes. If not, they're going to give it to the other beneficiaries listed. You need to think through that. You need to look at your will, if you created a will, to figure out how you have structured it. And then it will be added down into the form with the other primary beneficiaries, and you need to add all of them in, okay? If this gets difficult to fill out, you can also just fill this out on by printing it off and filling it out. The way that Chase has structured their thing is if you're just going to put one beneficiary, you can enter them in here and enter in that percentage up here. If you're going to enter multiple people, they're going to want you to enter it in here and also to add in the account number and your name up here. Okay. Down here is the contingent beneficiaries. That means the second beneficiaries. So if you list one person here and you say my spouse, and then after your spouse, you say, oh, I want it to go to my children. And then you'd list off your children here. And notice again, you can put per stirpes. That means if that person passes away, it goes to their kid. Some things to be cautious about. If you put the primary beneficiary, and then let's say you're a blended family, your spouse has kids, different children, not your kids, and you select per stirpes, what you're saying is this primary beneficiary's children. So you could accidentally, by clicking this button, leave everything to your spouse, and if your spouse isn't around, then to your spouse's children. Okay? So there's things I want you to be aware of, that filling out these forms can be dangerous sometimes because if you don't know what you're doing, it might leave your property to people you don't intend. If you're a blended family and not doing a trust, that's a serious problem. You should be doing a trust to avoid these problems, and your attorney can just put the trust as the you can just list the trust as the beneficiary, and your attorney's handled everything. Okay. Hopefully you didn't go online and create your trust, because that usually ends in a disaster. All righty. The next, Wells Fargo does the same way. They do an application. Oh, sorry, I skipped a step here. The most important, you got to get this form to Chase Bank. They require that you sign this with whoever you hold the account with in front of a notary. Okay? Must be done in front of a notary before you send in. So make sure that you've done that, you send it in, and then you get confirmation back that Chase Bank has received it. And I have in here a different way you can fax it and the email instructions. Wells Fargo, they do the same way. It's exactly the same way. You can go into their form and you'll see their form looks very similar to the different structures their structure's a little bit different. I think theirs is a little bit easier to use, especially for older people that aren't familiar with Adobe and how it works. Okay. And then you have your contingent beneficiaries. All right. And then these also have to be signed in front of notaries. Notice up here, might be a confusing question. Original transfer and death application. So if you have not set up any beneficiaries before, you can select this box. If your account has beneficiaries on it, you would click here. Okay, so that means you're changing the beneficiaries. Just understand the difference between the two and how to structure this. Okay. All right, Bank of America, they have a nice page right here that can help you through everything. It explains kind of what you need to be doing, but they do most of everything online, which is wonderful. Okay. They allow you to go in online. I do not have access to Bank of America. I do not have Bank of America, but you can go in, select, manage, go to the beneficiaries and the features and the information tab and set up your beneficiaries in there. I think it's a far better way than doing forms. US Bank Corp makes you call them and set up an appointment. Okay, you have to speak to the banker. They want everything. They want to see you come in. The one thing about Goldman Sachs form, if you go with Goldman Sachs, that I want you to be aware of is everything's pretty much the same, okay, except for they require what they call signature validation program or a medallion guarantee. In other words, you have to go to a bank and get it notarized. It doesn't have to be Goldman Sachs Bank. It just has to be a bank, a financial institution. Okay. That's the big thing to understand there when you're doing Goldman Sachs, Capital One Financial. They allow you to do it online or through a form. Either one can be done. Super simple. TD Ameritrade, you can do it online too or through a form. Either one. Charles Schwab probably has the best system. I found out there. They actually give you a video. Exactly how to do, how to set everything up. I thought it was very well done. You can just go through and watch that. Truist Financial, you got to call in. You got to go to the branch. PNC Financial, you have to do the same. Edward Jones, you have to contact your advisor. The one thing about Edward Jones that kind of shocked me was every one of these financial institutions will transfer your assets to your beneficiaries, no fees, no costs, except for Edward Jones. They charge $300 per account. So if you have like 4 or 5 accounts with Edward Jones, you got to be aware that it's going to cost it could cost $1,500, it could cost $2,000 to transfer all your accounts. I mean, that's almost the cost you're getting into to just probate an estate. So those are things I want you to be aware of when you're setting up your beneficiaries. Hopefully this video was helpful and can guide you through this process of setting up your beneficiaries. As you can see, it gets confusing. So you might need your attorney's assistance or help or someone in the office to help you and guide you through. Hopefully this helps in order to get it done, but this is vital. This is incredibly important that you get it done as soon as possible.